But we're talking about John Jones here, who is the most dangerous guy to ever fight in MMA.
I'm trying to break your posture. He doesn't do that. He pushes you against the octagon and then he leans. So now you're carrying 220 with your weight up against the octagon.
Neck of Ryan Bader. Look out for the north-south choke. His left arm is under the neck. Boy, he looks like he's trying to finish it here.
This is my life, and I'm willing to die to beat you.
Be prepared to do that.
You have said you're prepared to kill your opponent in there. Do you think Khamzat Chimaev is prepared to do the same?
To kill me? I certainly hope so, because if he's not, he's in for the worst night of his life.
Know already, guys. Who's the best, guys? It's my time. Take over. It's UFC, man.
Just like that!
I kick your ass and his ass together. Come in the cage.
I kill him. I kill him fast.
Jardine, he's in trouble. He's in big trouble. Silva trying to finish.
So I'm in the elevator by myself with Vanderlei. He seemed like he was mad that I was breathing his same air in the fucking elevator.
Welcome back, everyone. Today we're counting down the most brutal fighters in UFC history, those who make the octagon look like a demolition site. So sit back, pop a white monster, and enjoy.
When he uses wrestling. Oh! He goes out. John Jones remain. Oh, big shots. Big shots by John Jones.
World of trouble here.
Gustafson's in trouble. That's
John
it.
Jones has regained the throne.
You know I would absolutely kill you if you ever did something like that,
You
right?
could never kill me.
Oh, I bet you I could.
When the refs locked the cage door, opponents knew they were trapped with a predator. John Bones Jones didn't just fight people, he dismantled them with surgical precision wrapped in pure violence. This is why stepping into the octagon with Jones was like volunteering for your own destruction. The numbers alone should terrify any sane human being. 13 title defenses across 2 weight classes, 27 professional wins with only 1 controversial loss that everyone knew was complete nonsense. But statistics can't capture the psychological warfare Jones unleashed on his victims before he even threw a punch. The man would study opponents like a scientist examining lab rats, finding their weaknesses, their fears, their breaking points. Then he would exploit every single one. Take what he did to Lyoto Machida. The Dragon was a legend, a karate master who moved like water and struck like lightning. Jones picked him apart for 4 rounds. Then in the second round of their rematch, he lifted Machida off his feet and choked him unconscious with a guillotine so tight that Machida's body went completely limp. The referee had to physically check if the former champion was still breathing. That wasn't just winning, that was sending a message to every other light heavyweight that their skills meant nothing against this monster. But the real terror came from Jones's creativity and violence. Most fighters have a style, a comfort zone, a predictable approach. Jones was like a shapeshifter who could adapt to destroy anyone in any way necessary. He would use his freakish 84-inch reach to keep you at distance while he picked you apart with elbows and knees. If you tried to close the gap, he would grab you and slam you to the canvas like you weighed nothing. On the ground, he became even more dangerous, transitioning between submissions and ground strikes with the fluidity of someone who had been doing this since birth. The Gustafsson fight showed another dimension of Jones's brutality. When Alexander pushed him to the limit, when the Swedish warrior actually managed to hurt him and make him bleed, Jones didn't break. Instead, he reached into some dark place inside himself and found another gear. By the end of their wars, both men looked like they had survived car accidents, but Jones was still standing, still hunting, still looking for ways to inflict more damage. What made Jones truly terrifying wasn't just his physical gifts or his technical skills, it was his mental approach to violence. He would study tape obsessively, memorizing every habit, every tell, every weakness his opponents possessed. Then he would craft game plans specifically designed to exploit those vulnerabilities in the most brutal ways possible. He didn't just want to win, he wanted to prove that his opponents never belonged in the same cage with him. The heavyweight division learned this lesson when Jones made his debut against Cyril Gane. Here was a man who had been away from competition for 3 years, moving up to face larger, stronger opponents, and he submitted the former interim champion in 2 minutes. It wasn't even competitive. Jones looked like he was playing with his food before devouring destroying it completely. From devastating elbows that opened cuts like surgical instruments to takedowns that sent opponents crashing to the canvas with bone-rattling force, Jones weaponized every part of his body. His opponents didn't just lose fights, they lost pieces of themselves in that cage, walking away knowing they had faced something inhuman. John Bones Jones wasn't just a fighter, he was a nightmare made flesh, a reminder that some people are built differently, wired for violence in ways that defy explanation. When they call him the greatest of all time, they're not just talking about wins and titles. They're acknowledging that we witnessed something genuinely frightening, disguised as athletic competition.
Like he's like, if you were gonna go into a lab and design a perfect heavyweight, you'd say want him about 6'4", 265, maybe a little heavier, has to cut a little bit, maybe 269, cuts down to 265, crazy freak athleticism, fast as shit for heavyweight, knock anybody dead with one punch.
At the MMA factory in Paris, as they bring in guys
Ngannou knocks Arlovsky down. That is it.
super strong. Look at this.
He got it. Wow. Francis Ngannou.
Francis Ngannou didn't just knock people out, he erased them from consciousness with the kind of devastating power that made grown men cry. The Predator wasn't just a nickname, it was a warning label for anyone brave enough or foolish enough to step into the octagon with him. When Francis threw his hands, physics became poetry. Opponents didn't just fall, they crumpled like buildings in an earthquake. His knockout of Alistair Overeem wasn't just a finish, it was a public service announcement about what happens when unstoppable force meets human flesh. Overeem, a seasoned heavyweight who'd fought legends across multiple promotions, got turned off like a light switch. One uppercut from Ngannou and suddenly a man who'd battled through wars was staring at the ceiling, wondering what truck had hit him. But the Overeem knockout was just the beginning of the nightmare. Cain Velasquez, the former heavyweight champion who dominated the division for years, lasted 26 seconds against the Cameroonian wrecking machine. Velasquez had been through battles with Junior Dos Santos, survived wars with Antonio Silva, conquered Brock Lesnar. Against Ngannou, he looked like a sparring partner who'd wandered into the wrong gym. The most terrifying part wasn't just the knockouts themselves, it was how effortless they appeared. Ngannou would throw punches that looked casual, almost lazy, and then watch grown men collapse like they'd been shot by a sniper. His power was so absurd that the UFC's official testing measured his punch at over 129,000 units of force. To put that in perspective, that's equivalent to being hit by a Ford Escort traveling at full speed. Junior Dos Santos found out firsthand what that kind of power felt like. The former champion, known for his iron chin and technical boxing, got dropped by what looked like a jab from Ngannou. A jab. Most heavyweights throw their hardest shots and hope to hurt their opponents. Francis threw casual punches and put people in comas. Then came the Jairzinho Rozenstruik knockout that broke the internet. 20 seconds into the fight, Rozenstruik was unconscious on the canvas, his face a mask of blood and confusion. The punch that dropped him came so fast that slow motion replays were needed to see exactly what happened. It was like watching a magic trick where the magician makes consciousness disappear. What made Ngannou truly terrifying wasn't just his power, it was his evolution. Early in his career, opponents could survive by wrestling him, by taking him down and grinding out decisions. But Francis learned, adapted, became a more complete fighter while never losing that nuclear power in his hands. By the time he claimed the heavyweight title, he'd become the complete nightmare package. Stipe Miocic, arguably the greatest heavyweight champion in UFC history, got knocked out cold by Ngannou in their rematch. Miocic had survived the first fight, used his wrestling and experience to neutralize the power, but there's only so long you can dance with death before it catches up. When it did, Miocic joined the growing list of elite heavyweights who learned that Francis Ngannou power was something beyond human comprehension. The most brutal fighters in UFC history are remembered for different reasons, some for their relentless pressure, others for their technical brilliance or their ability to break opponents mentally. Francis Ngannou will be remembered as the man who turned violence into an art form, who possessed the kind of knockout power that didn't just end fights, but ended conversations about who hit the hardest. In a sport built on controlled violence, the Predator was beautifully, terrifyingly uncontrollable.
Right on the Erie lands. He tapped! Is plus 360. This.
Who would you like to see next when you step into the octagon?
Everybody. I come here for everybody. Kill everybody. I'm the champ. I'm the king. Kill everybody. Ah!
When you think of pure violence in the octagon, one name sends shivers down the spine of every welterweight and middleweight on the roster. Khamzat Chimaev, the man they call the Wolf. And after watching his fights, you'll understand why even seasoned veterans refuse to share the cage with him. This isn't just another fighter climbing the rankings. This is a man who has redefined what brutality looks like inside the octagon. In just 7 UFC fights, Chimaev has created a highlight reel so devastating that it makes other fighters question their career choices. We're talking about a human wrecking ball who doesn't just win fights. He destroys opponents with a level of violence that makes hardened MMA veterans uncomfortable. What makes Khamzat truly terrifying isn't just his record, it's how he dismantles people. Most fighters have a strength: wrestling, striking, submissions. Chimaev is elite at everything, and he uses each skill like a weapon designed to inflict maximum damage. His wrestling isn't just about takedowns, it's about slamming opponents into the canvas with enough force to rattle their ancestors. His striking isn't just about landing shots, it's about turning faces into abstract art with surgical precision. Take his UFC debut against John Phillips. Phillips was a seasoned veteran who'd been in wars with some of the division's best. Chimaev needed just over 2 minutes to turn him into a human punching bag. The ground and pound was so vicious that even the commentary team fell silent. This wasn't a fight, it was a public execution. But that was just the beginning. 10 days later, most fighters would still be recovering from their previous bout. Chimaev was back in the octagon, this time against Rhys McKee. The result was even more brutal. Another finish, another opponent left questioning their life choices. 2 fights in 10 days with 0 damage taken. That's not human. Then came Gerald Meerschaert, a crafty veteran with over 40 professional fights and legitimate submission skills. Someone who could expose the holes in a prospect's game. 17 seconds. That's all Chimaev needed to send Meerschaert to the Shadow Realm, with a right hand that registered on seismic equipment. The knockout was so clean, so devastating, that it became an instant classic. But what happened after the knockout was even more chilling. Chimaev didn't celebrate. He barely reacted. Like ending another man's consciousness was just another Tuesday at the office. The scariest part about watching Chimaev fight isn't the violence itself. It's the calm way he delivers it. There's no emotion, no anger, no hesitation. Just cold, calculated destruction. He approaches violence like a surgeon approaches an operation. Methodical, precise, and absolutely merciless. His grappling is particularly nightmarish. When Chimaev takes you down, it's not just a positional change, it's a death sentence. His ground control is suffocating. Opponents describe feeling like they're being crushed by a hydraulic press. Every transition, every position change, every strike from the top is designed to break your will before it breaks your body. Even his recent battles with elite competition have shown that same terrifying composure. Against Gilbert Burns, when he finally faced adversity for the first time in his career, Chimaev didn't panic. He adapted, adjusted, and found new ways to hurt his opponent. That ability to evolve mid-fight while maintaining that cold brutality makes him truly unstoppable. What keeps other fighters awake at night isn't just Chimaev's skill set, it's the realization that he's still improving. Every fight, he discovers new ways to inflict damage, new techniques to add to his already devastating arsenal. The wolf isn't just hunting in the octagon, he's evolving into the perfect predator, and every opponent is just another stepping stone toward absolute dominance.
And he was the most fierce pre-game fighter. The way he'd look at you like, I want to kill you for taking this fight.
Yeah.
Nobody was scarier than him in his prime.
One big one is going to land. But these
knockout!
And there it is! And there it is!
No!
And there it is!
Now has Kondo on the run, and he knocks him down. There's a stop, another stop. Make it 4 stops, and he is finished. Yuki Kondo, and the happiest man in the arena next to Silva is Quentin Rampage Jackson. Done, he's real. There's a knee again, reminiscent of the middleweight tournament.
Oh my God! Quentin Jackson has been knocked out with the right knee to the head.
When fighters stepped into the octagon against Wanderlei Silva, they weren't just facing another competitor. They were entering a nightmare. The axe murderer didn't just fight, he destroyed souls. With wild swinging hooks, relentless pressure, and eyes that burned with pure violence, Silva turned the cage into his personal slaughterhouse. This wasn't technical precision or calculated strategy. This was primal brutality at its most terrifying. From the favelas of Brazil to the bright lights of the UFC, Wanderlei Silva carved a path of destruction that left opponents unconscious, bloodied, and questioning their career choices. His record speaks for itself. 18 knockouts, countless broken faces, a reign of terror that made grown men reconsider stepping foot in the octagon. But numbers don't tell the real story. The real story lives in the eyes of every fighter who survived a war with the axe murderer and walked away forever changed. What made Silva so terrifying wasn't just his power, it was his complete disregard for his own safety in pursuit of violence. While other fighters calculated angles and conserved energy, Silva unleashed hell from the opening bell. His signature technique was chaos itself. Wild, looping hooks thrown with murderous intent. Knees that could cave in ribs, elbows that opened cuts like surgical instruments. He fought like a man possessed, like someone who genuinely enjoyed inflicting pain. The most brutal moment of Silva's career came against Quinton Jackson at Pride 25. Jackson was no stranger to violence himself, but what Silva did to him was pure savagery. Rampage got caught against the ropes, and Silva unleashed a barrage of knees that would haunt Jackson's nightmares for years. The referee should have stopped it earlier, but Silva kept punishing, kept destroying, kept proving that he belonged in a category all his own. Jackson's face told the story of a man who had met true brutality and barely survived. But Silva's cruelty extended beyond single moments of violence. He systematically broke down opponents over entire fights. Take his war with Ricardo Arona. For 15 minutes, Silva turned the ring into a torture chamber. Every exchange was an opportunity to inflict maximum damage. Blood poured from cuts opened by elbows, bruises formed from punches thrown with bad intentions. By the final bell, Arona looked like he'd been through a car accident. That's what fighting Wanderlei Silva meant. You didn't just lose a fight, you lost pieces of yourself. The psychological warfare was just as devastating as the physical punishment. Silva's pre-fight stare-downs became legendary for their intensity. Opponents would look into his eyes and see something that chilled them to the bone. This wasn't competitive fire or athletic determination. This was a man who genuinely wanted to hurt you, who took pleasure in your suffering, who viewed your pain as his entertainment. Chuck Liddell, himself no stranger to violence, admitted that Silva's intensity was unlike anything he'd ever encountered. Even in defeat, Silva remained terrifying. When Tito Ortiz finally managed to take him down and control him, Silva's eyes never lost that murderous gleam. He was planning, calculating, waiting for the moment to unleash hell again. That's what separated him from other fighters. Most competitors accepted defeat with grace. Silva accepted defeat as a temporary inconvenience before the next opportunity to destroy someone. The axe murderer's legacy isn't measured in championship belts or technical achievements. It's measured in the fear he instilled, the nightmares he created, and the careers he ended. Wanderlei Silva represented fighting in its purest, most savage form. He reminded everyone that beneath the sport's veneer of technique and strategy lived something primal and violent. For 15 years, he was the boogeyman that haunted every fighter's worst dreams, the most brutal, most terrifying force the octagon has ever contained.
Listen, it's not how you start, it's how you finish, and you finished in style.
You know me saying, lad, I'm a scouser. We don't get knocked out.
Mike, he's a fighter.
Oh!
Look at that.
Right from Paddy to Paddy.
Yeah, he's a fighter, boy.
Oh, he's a fighter.
Oh,
the big right hand.
Oh, my goodness.
On the ropes. Oh! The Paddy Brown has died.
He is a...
Bobby. Oh, King. Guillotine down and there's guillotine attempt. Now, it was under the shoes to escape for King Green. They're limited.
Oh, Paddy's got him now. Oh. This is tight.
And the arm up as well. It's got to be done. There it is. That's it. It's done. Paddy Pimblett.
You think you know brutal? You think you've seen scary? Wait until you witness what the baddie does to grown men inside that cage. This isn't your typical highlight reel breakdown. This is the story of a fighter so mentally and physically devastating that opponents question their career choices before the first bell even rings. Let me paint you a picture of what real brutality looks like. Most fighters throw punches and hope for the best. Paddy Pimblett dismantles human beings piece by piece, systematically breaking their will before their bones. His approach isn't just physical violence, it's psychological torture wrapped in scouse charm and delivered with surgical precision. The numbers tell part of the story. Multiple performance bonuses, devastating finishes, complete domination over seasoned veterans. But what the statistics can't capture is the look in his opponent's eyes during the stare-downs. The way grown men suddenly lose their swagger when they realize they're locked in a cage with someone who genuinely enjoys inflicting pain. Take his UFC debut. Most newcomers are nervous, feeling out their opponent, trying to establish rhythm. Paddy walked into that octagon like he owned it, like he'd been waiting his entire life for that moment. The finish wasn't just brutal, it was artistic, a masterclass in controlled violence that left everyone watching in stunned silence. His ground game is where the real terror begins. When Paddy gets you down, it's not about quick submissions or ground and pound. It's about making you suffer, making you regret every decision that led you to that moment. His opponents tap not because they have to, but because they can't handle the mental pressure of being completely helpless against someone who seems to feed off their desperation. But here's what makes Paddy truly frightening. He's getting better. Every fight, every training session, every moment inside that gym is making him more dangerous, more calculated, more brutal. While other fighters peak and plateau, Paddy continues evolving into something even more terrifying. The psychological warfare starts long before fight night. His trash talk isn't just banter. It's strategic demolition of his opponent's confidence. He studies their weaknesses, both physical and mental, then exploits them with surgical precision. By the time they step into that octagon, half the battle is already won. His training partners describe sessions that go beyond normal sparring. They talk about a switch that flips inside Paddy's head, a transformation from jovial scouser to calculated destroyer that happens in milliseconds. Coaches have to step in not to protect Paddy, but to protect everyone else from what he becomes when that competitive fire ignites. The most brutal fighters in UFC history all share one common trait. They don't just beat opponents, they break them. They leave permanent marks that extend far beyond physical damage. Paddy Pimblett embodies this tradition while adding his own unique brand of Merseyside mayhem that makes him truly unstoppable. From Liverpool's unforgiving streets to the world's biggest fighting stage, Paddy, the Paddy Pimblett represents a new breed of fighter, one who combines old-school brutality with modern technique and psychological warfare that leaves opponents mentally scarred long after their physical wounds heal.